Okay, we are now connecting to YouTube.
Okay. Are we connecting or we are in?
Says we're live.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone watching at home or wherever on Zoom and YouTube. This is the planning board meeting, May 19th. We'll get right to it with some general business. First item on our agenda. First item is to mention that the next meeting is June 9th, 2022. We will make a determination, I think, before maybe 10 days before that meeting regarding whether we're going to meet virtually or live. We keep a running eye on COVID numbers, and they seem to be gaining, even though, thank God, significantly people are not getting ill as bad as they were with the first or second or third onslaughts of the virus. So we'll make a determination probably by the end of, well, it's not too far away, almost by the end of the month, the 31st, which is, I believe, a Monday. Next item is to approve some draft meeting minutes. We have March 10th, April 7th, and May 12th on tonight's agenda to approve. May 12th have just gotten circulated today, so I think we're going to have to defer that to the next meeting on June 9th to approve those minutes. But first, we'll consider the March 10th minutes. I don't know if everybody's comments, I believe, are in. Anybody have any further comments or questions on that? And I'm just checking to see who was present on March, because we're waiting for Laura Zimmerman to join us. I'm sure
She's here.
Laura's here.
Oh, Laura's here. I'm sorry, I can't see the whole.
Everybody was
Sorry.
present on the 10th.
Hi, Laura.
I have
Everybody was
no
present?
idea why, but I had to restart.
Okay.
So whatever.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so any comments, questions on the minutes before we consider approving? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
All motion.
Get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So the March 10th minutes are approved. April 7th, same question. Any other comments? I know everything's been incorporated to date for anybody who has commented. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the April 7th minutes?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And next we have Rebecca with our trustee report.
Thank you, Ray. Good evening, everyone. Long time no see. I am happy to report that the presentation of the 6-acre park committee's proposal was accepted. It was adopted unanimously by the Board of Trustees this past Monday. So this concept of a densely planted mini arboretum-like park with a strong focus on restoring the original ecology of the area and having a walking path through that park is more or less what has been adopted. And that, I'm asking that the proposal be posted on the village's website somewhere for reference, but I'm happy to send along a copy if anybody would like the full written proposal or the slideshow presentations that I shared. The CAC met on Tuesday evening and was requesting to be more part of the plans that go through the planning board. They asked if I was able to forward, at the very least, forward the documents that are sent, out to the planning board to the CAC in case they wanted to submit comment or thought. But I thought to bring this request to the planning board to see if there was a more formal process or another way to integrate them that perhaps they were in the past. In order for them to help with the planning board's work as far as the environmental perspective goes.
Yeah, I think in the past, the request was made to the planning department and then the plans or whatever documents were forwarded over. I don't know, Jen, if that's correct, or is that what used to happen?
I think the planning board would make a referral to them in the same way that it does to the ARC.
And
Okay.
similarly, there was a point where we were having trouble getting any responses from the CAC on any referrals. So I don't know what's going to happen in the coming weeks, but it's possible that you're going to see more tree applications coming back to the planning board in my absence, in which case that might be a very helpful thing to refer to the CAC.
Yeah, I think we can probably look at what comes in and determine what should be sent to the CAC for opinion, if they'd like to weigh in.
Yeah, they would love that. Again, like Lisa's saying, if
Yeah.
it's, not to be an extra, part of the process and, a burden, but rather to be helpful, to the process. And, I know there've been a few new members added in the last couple of years who are, very, very much looking forward to being part of these processes and helping, these other boards, especially in the village, as the CAC is a committee. So I don't know, if we, folks can think about that, and maybe at the next meeting we can, talk about what that formal process would be, or, I could keep this conversation going with Jen, I suppose, especially regarding if they can help with tree applications, and they would be, I'm sure, over the moon to do that.
Yeah, no, it may be that we just need to be a little more cognizant or just remember that they're there, because in the past, I think maybe the board members were busy, or we didn't always get timely responses.
Absolutely. And then the CAC and the ARC have been working together to update the design guidelines. They had a co-meeting, not this past meeting, but the one before, so the March meeting of the CAC. And I know the ARC is completing, sort of a draft of sorts, and the CAC and ARC might meet again before submitting that to the planning board and department for review and comment as the next step.
Okay.
And that would conclude my report. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts?
I have a question about the 6-acre park.
Mhm.
Is there anything going to be done to mitigate the ticks? Because I'm 500 feet away from it, and we're in tick city over here.
Sure. So I think that the walking path that will go through is likely to be some kind of hardscape. We haven't, we definitely want it to be ADA compliant pathway. So I know even on Long Island, if you stay on the path, it's no guarantee that you don't get ticks, but it's much less likely. It's a tough part of our ecosystem. A lot of the animals that are natural to control, like possums and guinea hens, things like this, are not as plentiful as they used to be, and are struggling. And so, the hope is perhaps in part of building the ecosystem, it does provide habitat for animals like opossums to, which eat ticks by the dozens, if not the hundreds, every day. Otherwise, I will, if you email me with that comment, I'll put it in our file, and I'll see if there's, sort of natural deterrents that we could put in there. But, I know I was standing on my lawn the other day and a tick crawled over my foot. And that's just one of Long Island's lesser beloved qualities, I think, at this.
I was explaining to a neighbor that when I was little, there used to be quail here. And we would see the quail run up and down the driveway a few times a year. And I can't remember which group it was, but there is some group in Suffolk County that was reintroducing quail for the purpose of getting rid of the ticks.
Yeah.
And wouldn't that be wonderful if they could bring them back to the area?
That's a great concept, and I appreciate you making that connection. The group is called SEED, CEED. It's I'm not going to remember what it stands for, but yes, they've been doing this for many years, and that could be a great component of the park. I know that I used to work at Avalon Park and Preserve, and they would reintroduce quail there every year, and very quickly the quail would be taken out mostly by domestic cats. Yeah, so that's one of the issues of having outdoor kitties. They and the quail population in general. In addition to any foxes that are left running around. So, but it's not to say it's not worth trying. So I will, if you can, just send me an email with that, and I'll add it to our notes to circle back once, the park is getting rolling to perhaps try to introduce quail, because what a great addition that would be.
That'd be great. Thank you, Rebecca.
You're welcome. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we can move on to the first application then. Cindy, if you just want to read in the summary of that one.
Jim Tunis, 16 Bayless Avenue, pre-submission application. Location is 16 Bayless Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map Number, District 220, Section 137, Block 1, Lot 2.1. Applicant AJJ Industrial, care of Jim Tunis. Description: proposed change of zone from industrial to multifamily. The action is to review the revised proposal and provide comments.
Okay. Who would like to, I guess this is going to be Jen talking about this one?
I wondered, well, is Jim Tunis in the waiting room?
Yes, I believe
Yes.
it. Hold on.
Okay.
He's actually a participant. He's listed as a participant.
Yes, I will promote him to panelist. Just give me 1 minute to
I
find him.
think he was going to
There's a
give an
long list.
overview.
So Mr. Tuna should be joining us now as a
There he is.
panelist.
Dog scratching the door. How you doing, everyone?
All right, how are you?
Good, good. So, yeah, so I purchased 6 acres off of Bayless. Bayless it's a dead-end street, and hills come out onto Sheep Pasture Road, and that's the only means of ingress and egress on the property. Currently, the property is zoned industrial. I know that there was a prior application for 80,000 square feet for a storage center. But as of right, you could build about 75,000 square feet of industrial, which I don't think is the right use. So I've put in a change of zone application to rezone it for 56 apartments. I believe 28 of them will be townhomes with garages, and 28 will be apartments 1/1s. I believe I submitted a site plan to you to look at, and I also walked the neighborhood and talked to a bunch. Most of them are in agreement that they would rather have residential there than industrial with trucks coming out onto Sheep Pasture Road. I did get about 8 of them to sign a petition in support. And this application will go in front of the town of Brookhaven. And I'm looking for some guidance from the village, hopefully to support this application, since the residents that I spoke to are all village residents. I would hope that the planning board would support this application. I also have conceptual certification to sign to enter into the #1 sewer plant in Port Jefferson. There's actually a manhole right on Bayless Avenue at the entrance of the proposed community. So it would be a gravity fed feed into that manhole. I think it would be really good for the village, get more people uptown, walking distance to the railroad station, and you would basically eliminate an obnoxious industrial use that really doesn't belong in this area. And just here to answer any questions and hopefully get a letter of support from the planning board on this application that I would forward to the town of Brookhaven. There was a letter that the planning board sent. I think Jen circulated that letter. from 2019. And I think that's part of the record also.
Jim, so the last time we saw it then was definitely the industrial, correct?
Yes, yes.
Because I know we had made comments about traffic. This residential will have significantly less traffic.
Yes.
So we can review what we said before, but I don't know that we're going to have a lot of comments. I'm assuming the town of Brookhaven has reached out to the MTA about the crossing and see if they have any comments.
Yeah, that'll be process. That'll be a process of the change of zone, the conditions, if they approve it.
Okay. All right. Any board members have any questions? Jen, do you want to weigh in on that or?
I guess just to remind Jim that we did talk about perhaps the addition of a sidewalk along Sheep Pasture Road. I think, does the sidewalk end at the Verizon building or somewhere along there? But I do remember discussing, in order to encourage walkability, that, a sidewalk from the intersection of Bayless Avenue along Sheep Pasture Road to Main Street.
Sure. If you want to put that in a letter, that would be great. I wouldn't have an issue with that. That's a wonderful idea.
Any?
I
Go ahead,
actually
Rose.
have a question. So the village of Port Jeff is okay with the sewer hookup? Then?
If Jim, well, Jim can speak for himself.
Go ahead, Gil. You were head of the
was
sewer
one
agency, so why don't you take
There-
this one?
There
I
is
would
there is
prefer you
additional
did.
capacity. If Jim's got a letter for it, that means, it doesn't mean it's reserved for him, but it is available for the project as long as it keeps moving forward. So they'll have to go before the sewer agency itself, get permission to connect because it's outside of the district, and that'll just be another part of the process.
Okay. And then does anyone remember when we talked about this project before, we talked about there's some sort of little tiny triangle on Sheep Pasture? Jen, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I think before you got onto the meeting, we did discuss that. Yeah, it's a tiny,
sorry.
it's fine. And I think the prior application had proposed a sign or billboard there, which is not permitted in that zone.
Oh, okay.
But yes, right there. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So I don't think that's big enough to build a house on, right?
great.
no, but just any thoughts? Is that just gonna stay natural or you?
The thought is I'll donate it to the village. You guys can,
Okay.
Okay, have a little pocket park?
sure.
I don't know. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, that's okay.
I have no idea why my computer just decided not to work today. So. Okay, thank you. That was it for
Right.
me.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Jim, just the process will involve both fire departments of Brookhaven, I guess Port Jefferson Station or Terryville, and the village of Port Jeff. My only real concern is you've got that one access road. If there's a fire and somehow it gets blocked, will the fire department have another means of getting onto that site? That the railroad kind of blocks off, a great portion of it. So they either have to come through the southern, I guess it's apartments, or I know there's a fire road on Lawrence, but again, as long as the fire departments feel comfortable being able to, get to the site if needed.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fire expert, but it's dead end road, so I don't know how they handle dead end roads.
Yeah, I would just want it to go before both departments, because I would think Port Jeff is a little bit closer than Port Jeff Station, Terryville, but but it's outside of their district. So, I would just want this to go before them. That's all I'd ask, so that they can, be aware of it, come up with some plan in case of emergency.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Jim.
All right, I hope to see everyone on another surprise matter on June 9th.
We don't like surprises.
Oh, you'll love this one. And I also want to say congratulations, Lisa Rickmers. I hear you're leaving, and it's a pleasure working with you over the last couple of years. Good luck in your endeavors as you move forward in life. So good
Thank
luck.
you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. You too, Jim. All right. Next up on the agenda, 213 Michigan Avenue, which is a 2-lot minor subdivision. Cindy, if you just want to finish the particulars on that one.
Application number 0625-22, location 213 Michigan Avenue, Suffolk County Tax Map Number, Section 15, Block 1, Lot 25, zoning RB2, Single Family Residence. Applicant is Andrew Maguinera from Brookhaven Expeditors. The property owner is Michael Seri. Description: proposed 2-lot minor subdivision, and the action is to introduce the sketch plan.
Okay. Do we have anybody in the waiting room on this?
Yes, I have Andrew. I will promote him to panelist.
Okay.
Okay, Andrew Malgnar is joining us as a panelist.
Okay. Jen, you had sent some comments on this one, correct?
I did.
Okay.
You should have a staff report. I don't know if anyone had a chance to drive past the site, but I did provide some photographs of it if you didn't.
Okay. Okay. This is the pen and pencil building, is it? Or
No,
No.
this is
Oh, this isn't the residential. It's up.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong thing in front of me. Never.
It's okay.
I think you could share on the screen.
I'm jumping in.
yeah, give me a second. I'm gonna pull it up.
So we don't bounce back and forth. Or I don't remember.
Okay, I got it.
Think, let's see, Lisa, there's a there should be, just in order to introduce the project, a survey that has both lots on it. Let's see, it was,
Sorry, I'm pulling them up from the names and I was not sure which one we needed. Let's try this one, 23rd February surveys. This, I think, is what you're
Yep,
looking for.
that's it. There you go.
So that's the northeast corner, I guess, of Michigan and Emerson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I don't know if Andrew wanted to introduce the subdivision, or I'm happy to go through the staff report, whatever.
You can have Andrew, if you wouldn't mind just introducing it. I don't know if you've had a chance. You probably haven't had a chance to see these comments.
I did. I
Yeah.
saw that.
Oh, you
Yes,
did. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah. If you could just give us the highlights, maybe.
of course. So yeah, Andrew Maguinera, for the applicant, we have here is a 100 by 100 standard lot. Mostly here because the owner put it in the same name as his current property and has since merged, and we're looking to subdivide it and make a buildable lot, of which it would have been pretty standard had he not merged the lot to begin with. As you can see from the surveys, it's it's a 100 by 100 lot and a builder's lot, and not much issue on that front.
Okay. So Jen, you have a photo in the comments, so I guess that's taken on Emerson. I'm sorry, on Michigan, looking down the driveway of the existing house. Is that correct?
Correct. There should be,
Okay.
yeah, there are 3 photographs. So Lisa, do you have the staff report as well? You should,
Yes,
think.
I can. Yes, I can pull that up. Hold
So
on.
if we go to page 3 and 4, basically, and 5.
Okay, it's just computer is a little slow, but I have it now.
Right, so that's standing on Michigan, looking at the improved lot, if we go to the next page, I believe, right, so that's the southern edge of the driveway, and then the wooded area would be lot 26 of this older subdivision map.
Okay.
So it's a heavily wooded lot. It's a bit of a slope coming up Emerson, as well as internal to the lot, right? You can see, so that's standing on Emerson, looking toward the south side of the house on lot 25. This is an older subdivision. It's part of the Suwasa Park subdivision that was done and filed long before the incorporation of the village. Once the village was incorporated, those lots that were already improved are legally non-complying, but area requirements for the lots in RB2 were increased once the village was incorporated. So as it stands now, these 2 lots, which are effectively one lot, because they are in common ownership and both undersized, would be a corner lot, and corner lot minimum area requirements are 20,000 square feet. The combined total for these 2 lots is just over that. It's 25,430 square feet. To subdivide them would be to create 2 non-complying lots. So that part of a concern. There, in order for the subdivision would engender a number of variances from the zoning board. For lot area, I think I've listed them. Yes, so lot 25, the improved lot, would require a lot area variance and a driveway setback variance. Currently, the driveway is proposed basically on the lot line that separates the 2 lots. And lot 26 would also require an area variance, quite a significant one. Its area would be reduced, would be 12,930 square feet, where 20,000 square feet. So it's just a little over half of what corner lot square footage requirements are currently, and side yard setback as well. It gets a little tricky. Oh, it's not knowing what the existing clearing of lot 25 is. Both lots might require tree clearing variances as well.
Okay. So that information has to be provided and added to the plan before it can go anywhere, right?
Yeah, and there's quite a bit more information that's required for a sketch plan. So the first step in your process would be classifying the subdivision. It's a minor subdivision. It's creation of fewer than 4 lots, and it doesn't propose a road. In order for you to sort of assess the appropriateness of the subdivision, the applicant is asked to provide a sketch plan and itemized on page 2. So if you could just scroll up a bit on page 2, Lisa, it's where there's under the elements of the sketch plan, in order to give you adequate information, I've listed the additional information that's required. So that would be the next step for the applicant to provide. And doing that, the planning board would sort of consider the appropriateness of the sketch plan. That would be as far as you could go, because zoning board variances would then also be required. I'm currently, and I have I'm sorry, in terms of SECRA and VECR, there are some revisions to the short environmental assessment form that the applicant filled out that should be corrected. Once that's done, taking a look at SECR, because the ZBA is also an involved agency, meaning their approval is also required for this action. This might be a coordinated review, and that's something I need to sort of get more of a handle on.
Okay.
I think in any instance, the planning board will be the lead agency. It's just classifying the action as, a coordinated review, or, a review primarily for the planning board.
Okay.
Does anyone
right.
have any questions?
Yeah.
I was just looking at an aerial view of the area, and it doesn't look like any of the lots would be the 1,500 square.
Very few, yes, that's true. There are many non-complying lots because it's a much older subdivision.
Yeah, this would almost identically mirror what is across the street from it on Michigan. So I mean, I guess it's just not out of character. Wouldn't be like.
It's not out of character. It does propose an entrance off of Emerson, which is a little bit more steep. It proposes a lot of clearing because it's outside of the sewer district. Sanitary system would be put in, and I'm not sure what the lot size is. I do have, actually, I don't think I included them in this report yet. It wouldn't be, you're right, it wouldn't be entirely out of character.
Yeah.
But there are issues about access off of Emerson as proposed, and clearing. So there's just a little more information I think that's needed to establish what exactly the variances might be.
Okay.
Now, Jen, is it possible we could allow a combined driveway? For example, the house to be built would have a short stub of a driveway that we go out to the driveway of the other parcel, or is that what we require individual?
That's not generally, it just because it creates potential maintenance issues, and when there's common ownership,
Mhm.
there are good examples around the village of sort of internal squabbles about, you know, who's responsible for clearing, repaving, when it gets done. In general, I would advise against it.
Yeah, then down the road, I guess the property may get sold to various different owners. So it's not, it may not be same family or a subset of a family. So yeah, that makes sense. Anybody else have any questions or comments from the board?
Can I interject?
Yeah, we were going to ask you to comment too. Go ahead.
Sure. So, I mean, I feel like we're here mostly because of the fact that it was merged with the subsequent lot to the, you know, to the neighboring lot. And had that not have happened, this would be a single and separate lot and would conform to the previous zone, and we wouldn't have much of any issue here. The only real issue is the fact that it was just merged, unfortunately, by name, but that's the only thing that was done that makes this lot not, you know, a perfectly acceptable buildable lot under normal, you know, jurisdiction. It's 100 by 100 lot, conforms there completely. It's
No, it doesn't. It no longer conforms
no,
to
it
the area.
no longer conforms, but it did conform previously. It was its own lot. We're not asking to build a separate lot.
Understood.
And if this lot was not merged, it's a single and separate lot and would conform to the previous zone and as it was built. So I feel in that sense that the only real reason we're even having this conversation is because it was merged under common ownership.
There are aspects that
right.
Most of that is true. However, had that not been merged, compliance with tree clearing would still apply to the unimproved lot. And absolutely
to our lot that we're
to lot
to
20, the
vacant lot.
unimproved lot,
Right,
to the corner lot.
And that's complete, and it's fully
There
it's
would
fully
be issues
vegetated
with the existing driveway and its proximity to the new.
minimal. It's a minimal.
And that's fine. I'm just pointing out what needs to be done now.
I'm just giving the overview of the entire. I'm not arguing. I'm just giving the overview of why this is a minimal subdivision. What we're asking for.
And I think I've asked beyond. There's a wooden fence that encroaches on what might be lot 26.
Yeah, that's an easy fix.
Well, it's not so much the encroachment. It's not clear what's happening behind that fence and what sort of improvements have been done beyond it.
Sure. I understand what you're saying, and you know, if there are any improvements behind that fence, that could be easily rectified.
Okay, good. I just to be aware.
Of course.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, so Jen, we don't really need to do anything tonight. Waiting for the revised plan. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct.
Can I? Because I was under the assumption that we could come here and then move on to the zoning board and then subsequently come back with the revised plan instead of going, you know, come back to you and then go back to the zoning board after we know what we need to go to the zoning board for. So
I don't know. Okay, I don't know that you have enough information on the plan yet to go to the zoning board.
Right.
We'll need, and you were asked to provide the location of trees and what would be the proposed clearing limits. You'll need all of those prior to going to zoning board and the revised short EAF.
Right. Well, I mean, we can provide that without issue, but do we need to go back to the planning board in order to go back to the zoning board for that?
Well, I guess, Jen, we're asking for the information, so you'll want to look it over before you send it to the zoning board or refer it, right?
I would, yes.
Okay.
And that referral comes from you, so presumably you would want to see it as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so, because when it was zoning, we don't want the zoning board to ask more questions. That's just gonna delay it.
Of course, I mean, the clearing and all that could be easily adjusted by the surveyor, and he's working on it as we speak. So we could provide that back to you guys.
Okay, great.
All right. Anything else on this one? Okay. Thank you. So we'll move on to next item on the agenda, which is 1601 to 1607 Main Street and 2 Perry Street. That's the Conifer development. Lisa, while you're admitting representatives from Conifer, Cindy, if you could read in just the initial information.
1601, 1607 Main Street and 2 Perry Street. Site development plan, application number 0624-22. Location is 1601-1607 Main Street and 2 Perry Street. Suffolk County tax map numbers are District 206, Section 21, Block 6, Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. Zoning is C2 Commercial District. The applicant is Port Jefferson Commons LLC, member Conifer Realty LLC. Property owner is 1605 Main Street LLC, care of Adams and Company Real Estate LLC. Contact is David Buttacavalli. The description is a demolition of 2 existing buildings and proposed construction of a 3-story multi-use building with underground parking. And the action is to introduce the application tonight.
Okay.
Okay, I promoted Sal Coco to a panelist. Jen, who else do I need to promote to panelist?
I think Kathleen Deegan Dixon is here as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yes, I see her. There we go.
And I don't know if there are other people from BHB or.
See Christiane
Kathleen.
Westerluck and Lou Bukowski from VHB.
Let's see if we get this team in, we can see who else they would like to bring in. Hi, Kathleen and Sal. Who else from your team should I promote to panelist? Is there anyone else that needs to speak?
Christy also, and I believe Lou.
Okay, I try it. Here comes Christiana. Okay, Christiana has joined us. I don't think Lou's allowing me to promote him to panelist.
Lou just texted me and said he's not participating.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Sal, Christiana, and Kathleen. I don't know who would like to speak and just give us an introduction to the application. And I would think that Lisa, you should probably have the plans ready to share.
Yes. Would you prefer to share my screen, or is there one of you who would prefer to be able to show the documents as you like?
If I could share my screen.
Sure. Okay, you can now share your screen.
Okay, I think we can all see that.
Kathleen, I believe you're muted.
I don't think so. Yeah, Kathleen, maybe you could call in if you like, right?
Yes,
Oh.
we can give a call-in number perhaps. Hold on.
Yeah, we'll wait. That's at least the call won't be from a moving vehicle like we've had before, which is interesting as you lose signal and then pick it up again.
All right, let's see. Does this work now?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
All right, I figured it out. I had another application running that was causing a problem. So, okay. So thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is Kathleen Deegan Dixon. I'm a partner in the law firm of Fercelli Deegan Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York, here on behalf of Port Jefferson Commons LLC. This is our meeting to introduce the site development plan that we've been talking to the planning department with about for the last several months, a little bit, actually over a year, I believe. The property is on Main Street, the southeast corner of Main Street and Perry Street at 1601 to 1607 Main Street and 2 Perry Street in the village of Port Jefferson. The applicant proposes a second residential mixed-use building, essentially a phase 2, to complete the or to complement the Port Jefferson Crossing project, which was approved in November of 2020 and is currently under construction. This new building will complete the block front on the east side of Main Street between Station Street and Perry Street. Christiana, go to the next screen. The property currently, or the next one after that, consists of a 1-story block building and a 3-story masonry building with vinyl siding. So the proposal is to demolish that and then to construct a new mixed-use residential and commercial building. And like phase 1, we're proposing it to be, and I'm going to refer to Port Jefferson Crossing as phase 1. That's sort of been our vernacular, but that's what I refer to when I say phase 1. So like phase 1, we're proposing this project to be 100% affordable with 2 stories of residential apartments over ground floor commercial, with lower level parking, which will be accessible from the rear of the property. This project will consist of 51 units, 25 1-bedroom units and 26 2-bedroom units, with 2,400 square feet of commercial space on the ground floor and 60 parking spaces. So I mentioned that we've been working with the planning department for some time. The project was first proposed about a year ago, more or less. We started discussions with the planning department to develop the plan. The initial proposal was for 57 affordable units in a 4-story building with 3 floors of residential over a partial first floor of community space. the project team made several revisions over the next several months to reduce the height, reduce the density, and increase the commercial space. So as I mentioned, we're now down to 51 units, and they added 2,400 square feet of true commercial space to the ground floor rather than shared community space, which would not have, which the village really didn't prefer over true retail and restaurant space. So in order to complete the streetscape along Main Street with all commercial property, they even asked us to move the residential entrance around the corner to Perry Street. They also requested that a grease trap be added to the project to allow for the possibility of a restaurant or to give some flexibility in the commercial uses in the future. Another request was to change the unit mix to include more 2-bedroom units, and we added public restrooms to the ground floor. So we've been working hard, as you can see from the chart. It's been sort of an iterative process, but being a 100% affordable development, there's not an awful lot of wiggle room. I think that with working so closely with the planning department over these last several months, the changes have resulted in a good project that still maintains the economic feasibility for the developer. So the property is located in the Upper Port Jefferson area as described in the village's comprehensive plan. The comp plan recognizes the importance of putting the village's higher density near the train station. And as you know, this property is located just 1 block from the Long Island Railroad station. And it does satisfy the comprehensive plan's objectives of providing transit-oriented and affordable development in this area, as well as beautifying the gateway to the village from the south. We believe that this project, along with the phase 1, are going to activate the upper part of this village with new commercial uses, which will be supported by the new residents of this and the other developments in the area. The project complies in all respects with the village's C2 zoning code, except that we have had a little bit of an ongoing debate with the planning department concerning the number of stories. We have presented it and believe it to be a 3-story building with an underground parking level, which takes advantage of the sloping topography in the area. If you look at the elevations, you'll see that the elevation of Perry Street drops nearly 12 feet from Main Street down to Oakland Avenue. The planning department has taken a position that the building is 3 stories in the front along Main Street, but as it goes down Perry Street and the grade falls away, that it results in 4 stories in the rear, starting part of the way down Perry Street. We believe we could maintain it as of right if we step back the top floor 12 feet, but in order to do that, both along the Perry Street frontage or a portion of the Perry Street frontage and the rear of the building, not only would we lose additional units, which the project really can't afford at this point, I think it would result in a visually and aesthetically awkward look. So we are most likely headed to the zoning board for relief, and hopefully we'll be able to make an application to them shortly and be before them in June before we come back to this board for further site plan review. I also want to note, and we picked up on it earlier, that there was an error on the site plan regarding the FAR based on the coordination with the village during the first phase of the project. The design team recalculated the FAR following the same methodology of including only half of the covered parking area for the calculation. So right now, using that methodology, we exceed the FAR by a small amount. We're at 2.59, I believe, but we're pretty confident, and our architect Sal is pretty confident that we'll be able to bring the building in under the FAR limitation so that we will truly be zoning compliant. In addition, we provide 60 off-street parking spaces. So we'll be seeking approval to make a payment in lieu of parking for 13 spaces. So with that payment in lieu, then it will bring the parking into compliance as well. So with that overview, I'd like to introduce Sal Coco of BHC Architects, and he'll walk you through the plans, some of the building features, and then we also have Dave Whitacovely from VHB to discuss any of the site and civil and engineering aspects of the plan, if you have any questions on that. So thank you, and take it away, Sal.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Sal Coco from BHC Architects, 1300 Walt Whitman Road, Melville, New York. This is the ground floor. To the left side is Main Street, and along the top is Perry. So the beige color is the commercial space that we talked about earlier. It's now taking up all the way from left to right, with the exception of a water service room, or from up and down of Main Street. The frontage is all commercial space. And then this ground floor behind that is apartments and a great room and laundry room. There's a courtyard, which mirrors the courtyard of Port Jeff Crossing Phase 1. And, the apartments, as you get further down to the right, are elevated off the ground further because of the slope of the grade. I think if you go to the next floor.
Sal, before you
yeah.
leave that,
Yep.
how many entrances are there onto Main Street there? Is that one or two? I can't.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it's as many as that might be needed.
Okay.
So we don't have necessarily a tenant. So that's 2,400 square feet of shop front. It could be one tenant, it could be four. The elevation, we've broken it down into multiple kind of a storefront appearance, but we don't know who's going to take that space yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But on Perry, if you stay on that slide for one more second, there is the vestibule now coming off of Perry instead of off of Main. That was another thing that we did. And there's elevator there that is solely residential, but there's also on the bottom of the beige commercial space is a link to the elevator that is part of Port Jeff Crossing. We have a one-stop elevator that's used to bring services and in and trash out of the commercial space. So the benefit of this being one complete development is it's got this shared service corridor leading to the back for trash and delivery. And I think the next slide is an elevation of Main Street showing the positioning next to Port Jeff Crossing, and then the multiple facades, and the idea that this whole part of Main Street is something developed over time. Those would be three different kind of townhouse looks with a different coloring, and then this corner anchor. And I believe the next slide is Perry. And as you can see, the bulk of the grade is at this higher level, particularly along Main Street. And there is some confusion in the code in terms of how you determine when a story becomes a story. But, the average grade is about halfway or more up that slope. And so, our contention is that this is a 3-story building based on the average grade definition. And there's talk about the structural ceiling in the code, and we're trying to also understand what that definition is. But from our understanding, it's the ceiling of the structure, which is denoted with that line on the drawing. And I think we have some additional graphics on the next page. This is the back, the east side, and to the left of that is the east side, the back of Port Jeff crossing. So Port Jeff Crossing actually has parts of it that are slightly taller, the stair bulkhead. But it's the exact same concept that you go down the hill, you tuck parking underneath, and you have this 3-story building that fronts Main Street and has all residential above, and all of this residential is going to help to activate Main Street and make that retail more viable, which really was the long-term purpose of all of the replanning that occurred, is to get activity on Main Street. There's screened parking down here, services, and I think there's additional slides after this. This is within the courtyard. I think we can keep going. That is the slide that you saw in the front. That is the corner of Perry and Main. That's looking in the other direction at the almost complete Port Jeff crossing and the new proposed Port Jeff Commons. And I think we have another slide after that. You know, a more oblique view looking down Perry as the site slopes 12 feet down. And I believe there's one more. This is from the bottom of Perry, and you can see the parking and the base of the building, but it's really a 3-story residential building, the front of which on Main Street has commercial space.
Okay.
And you see Port Jeff Crossing to the left there.
Do you want to just touch on the architectural components, the materials involved in the new building?
Well, so we would be using a lot of the same materials, hardy siding, masonry, hardy board and trim. And this building has more of a blending of styles. So the front, there's some Victorian elements with more vertical windows. And here, these are more of a federal approach. Some have shutters, some don't, using some varied colors. Again, masonry at the bottom, shop front appearance, even though behind there is parking. We can either do that with opaque glass or with some screening. You know, the architecture is similar material to what we have at Port Jeff Crossing, but just a different take on it, different take on the window style. And some more masonry elements anchoring the top corner of Perry.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think that's it, Christy, is it? Is there another slide?
No, that's it. We could turn it back to Kathleen.
Okay.
So I think, did you have any questions for our site and civil team? We can, Dave, are you on? Is Dave on? I'm sorry, let's see.
I can promote somebody else to panelist. Let me just see.
Was he?
Give me 1 second.
I don't see him on the list.
I think I'm bringing him in. Hopefully, his hand. Somebody's hand was up. I don't know the name, so. Di Baracavoli.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in?
You are in.
Wow.
We can hear you.
No camera though. That's funny. Oh, start video. There we go. All it takes is a button. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
From a civil standpoint, I mean, unless you have some specific questions, I mean, the predominantly, as Sal just outlined, it's pretty much building. All of the roof drainage will be contained in the galley leaching system that will be behind the building. Yeah, Christiana, if you can, yeah. So right there in that plan where the loading area is identified, that's where the chambers will be for the roof drainage, as well as whatever pavement area needs to be contained as well, which has already been designed into the plan that was sent over to the village preliminarily. I mean, some of the inverts and whatnot still need to be finalized, but I mean, from a civil standpoint, that's kind of it. This time the engineer stands back and the architect is shining. It's all mostly building. So unless you have any questions specific to the areas or anything else that I can answer, but that really is from a civil side, that's kind of it.
All right, why don't you stick around? I think we'll start maybe with Jen Siegler to get your reactions and reviews so far, or what you know about it, any comments. I should point out that Jen is also an architect by trade. So, and I should also take the opportunity to mention that we're down a planning board member, and we are ideally looking for an architect to fill that position, since we have maybe an imbalance with engineers. And we'd like to kind of even it out. So that being said, maybe Jen, if you could just come on with your initial thoughts and comments.
Sure. I'm hoping everyone got my very tardy brief staff report of talking points. I think primarily I have a lot of concerns about the density of the building. I think, as Kathleen brought up, this department does consider it a 4-story building. Well, that it becomes a 4-story building as it goes down Perry Street and the grade changes. That said, I think the aspects of the project that strike me as I think deficient is the complete lack of any outdoor space proposed for the applicants, for the residents. There are no and particularly given the last 2 years of COVID and our understanding now about how important outdoor space is, there are no proposals to develop the shared inner courtyards. There are no balconies provided in any of the units. And I do want to I think the density is quite a bit higher than anything else that has been approved in the village to date. And especially particularly for a 3 or 4-story building. And in terms of the comp plan and looking at the overall development of the C2 district, absolutely, it's true that we want density up there to support the retail corridor. But these 2 projects, Conifer 1 and 2, the Commons and Port Jeff Crossing, they are, in terms of land in the C2, and I think I've pointed this out, they represent about 4% of the total acreage in C2. Yet these projects will take up 20% of the maximum number of units that have been proposed under the comp plan, and what was deemed, that Uptown could sustain without, dire traffic results. And that's something to bear in mind. These are early days. Absolutely, we want to encourage this kind of development, but I think by providing more tenant amenities, and compliance with the step back of there are aspects of the plan that could be changed that would bring down the density and nudge it maybe toward more compliance with the village code, and also I think just the overall intent of the comprehensive plan, the aims of the comprehensive plan. I have some questions about the proposed drainage. I did note, it looks as if a lot of drainage structure, are they is all of the roof drainage going into the driveway, or is it being
It's being,
directed into catch basins within the garage?
yeah, it's being, Christie, can you go to the next, is there another plan you had there? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you've got roof leaders coming into that, those chamber systems,
Right.
as well as some internal. I mean, obviously it's covered, but realistically speaking, there's going to be, some in there.
Right.
So the storage, and I went with chambers because of the limited space that we have in that, sort of area, but it does compensate for the 3 inches of storage required. So there's still some tweaking that would have to be done on the final engineering plan, but I mean, this is just, essentially the schematic of how it would work.
Right. My question, and I know that we do have a drainage expert on the planning board staff. Downtown, where the water in C1 district downtown, where the water table is quite high, there have been projects where stormwater drainage has been captured within the footprint of the building. I know that from a prior department head, and there were lots of discussions about discouraging that. And I have a question because, I honestly don't know. Yes, our design standard for capturing runoff is 3 inches. We all know that we get rain events that surpass that. If that happens, would the garage potentially flood?
So, hydraulically, you just want to make sure that that those basins there are higher than any outlet, right? That's going to happen inside those chambers. If, once finally designed, you're going to have some sort of a release that would have to happen at the edge of that. You wouldn't want it backing up into the garage. Essentially, it's going to back up and go out onto the street. That's just the reality.
That's my worry. So the pitch is toward the street in the driveway, and that extra water would just go then out onto the street?
Well, you'd have whatever ponding is going to be. So if you look at the ponding condition that would happen there, if you close those, you could argue that there's 6 inches of ponding happening within that area. But anything over the 3 inches and that ponding, you're not going to have it back up and surcharge into the basement. I mean, it would only be logical that it would have to surcharge back out into there. 3 inches is what the village has as a standard for storage. And as you can see, I don't really have much area there to go any deeper. We did look at the borings and the water table, so they're not the deepest of units. Now, the other option is to put some in the actual structure. So the decision on that over this whole island varies. Some jurisdictions, discuss that as being an option. The larger issue becomes, how do you clean them out?
Exactly. Maintenance, say there's a breakdown, you've got to chop up the slab of the garage.
And well, I mean, and also too, realistically, if you can get a pump truck in there, and oftentimes when you get into some more urban areas, it's more difficult to get a pump truck in to be able to, pump them out. So, here, if there was some opportunity to do something closer to the doors, but that really is what the big issue is maintenance. Because we know the water's all going to the same place, essentially, it's going down. So it's a matter of whether or not that can be captured anywhere else. We could look into different things, we'd have to talk to the client, but we kept it all outside for the preliminary at this point.
Gil, I'm gonna call on Gil to wonder if he has any insights into this, or maybe we'll think about it.
I would say, I mean, certainly what they're proposing is not unrealistic. The problem becomes lack of space. Generally, any type of drainage like this, you want to make sure, you provide, at some point, you're going to have a storm that's going to be bigger than whatever you've designed for. So you have to have something that provides for an overflow. You're going to get 3 inches of storage here. Once the storm gets above that, it's going to look for a way to either get off-site. I don't think this is unreasonable. Again, it would be nice if they could increase it. I understand the concern with maintaining it. you're doing that balance, and I really don't have an answer right now. I think it's something we have to think about as a board.
Yeah, because the 3-inch standard is,
It's on the low side at this point.
yeah, it's on a lot. It's on the low side compared to other municipalities.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there are opportunities for tenant amenities on the roof or pre-wiring for photovoltaic at some point. I've not seen any of that proposed. The great room on the ground floor as a tenant amenity, I think leaves a little bit to be desired. It's not very large. Its windows face what is basically the light well in between the buildings. I don't think there's, at this point, anything aesthetically appealing about that space. I have questions about sharing a freight elevator. I think that that option is brought up just so that the proposed density might remain. I'm not sure exactly how that works with two separate buildings. It's not as if it's a project that shares infrastructure. Just because you call it phase 2, they're not sharing sewer hookups, water service. They aren't sharing any of the infrastructure services to make it sort of a phase. It's just the second building being built by the same developer. At least that's how it appears.
I guess other than the elevator that was mentioned by Sal.
Well, I'm not, I think there's a desire to share the elevator so they don't have to install one in this project.
Well, I mean, we're talking about 2,500 square foot of retail in phase 2 and maybe 1,500 in phase 1. So
if it's a restaurant,
sharing an elevator.
If it's a restaurant, I don't think, you're going to want to bring in, I think, and the likelihood that it will be a restaurant rather than a brick and mortar retail space is high, because those seem to be the entities that survive on main streets these days. Particularly if there's a bar or something like that I don't think that you're going to want to share servicing and maintenance with the residential component of the building.
Oh, it's not. It's a separate.
Well, I would question. I mean, I don't know what the structure of the buildings themselves are. Say one building is sold. Is there an easement agreement in perpetuity that you always use the freight elevator in the other building? I'm not sure. Other than preserving the density that you're proposing, why put a freight elevator or commercial elevator? Why not put it in this new building? So that's just as an aside, I think you've got plenty of room. The length of parking spaces that the code requires is 19 feet. I think the plans are currently showing 18. There is not a loading space that's code compliant that's currently shown. I think the lack of outdoor space, though, is particularly concerning.
So if I could just address that, this is a downtown project and there are parks in the area. I think the idea is that people are not going to be spending their recreation time necessarily in their apartments, but there's the Texaco Park, which is nearby, and the Highlands Park, which is it's a nice big park, all within walking distance. The fact is that the two buildings will be under common control to some degree with similar memberships and similar principles. So we can think about, what kind of shared amenities space might make sense. That's one of the benefits to having this, and why we are considering it a phase 2, so that there will be some synergies and not a lot of wasted effort or economies of scale, because keep in mind, this is 100% affordable. So our budgets are different from the market rate projects that you see in the area, that you've seen applied for in the area. So we'll see what we can do about maybe some shared amenity space. But I do think that in a downtown setting like this, it's less important than especially with the parks in the area. It's less important than it might be somewhere else.
I think I would have, personally, I think I would have to respectfully disagree. And I am concerned hearing about the developments at the 6-acre park, that it is a very passive, that there is no real space to, it doesn't sound as if there will be much space to actively recreate.
But we are going to be paying our parkland fee as part of this project as well.
And I would, I do think that the residents up here are absolutely stakeholders, and the 6-acre park is progressing without the stakeholder input of the future residents here.
Just a point of information, Jen. This is Trustee Rebecca Casse. I've been chairing that 6-acre park committee. In the proposal, it says that the far west end of the parkland along Oakland Avenue has potential for more active use, and we put that in there so that as residents start to move into Conifer 1 and these other buildings, that we can have more input from those stakeholders, as well as more specific input from other residents who already live in the area regarding their needs and wants for potential active use.
Yeah, that's great. I hope that they proceed, sort of in parallel, and one doesn't outstrip the other, because there are no, ball fields, tennis courts, places to.
Something else the board, I've brought up to the Board of Trustees is that Texaco Park is underutilized, square footage wise. There's much more potential for other active uses in there. So the village might look to redesign Texaco Park to offer some more active, walking distance active uses from the new developments here.
Right. Fair enough.
I did also just want to address your comments, regarding density. So while this density is higher than what's currently being built on the phase 1 site, because we are considering these sort of a conjoined project, or we're now providing 96 units of residential over. I'm sorry, 100 of affordable residential over a 1.24 acre site. It actually brings the density down from what it appears if it's a standalone. So I think while pure numbers might sound like it's a lot, I think when it's averaged over the 2 sites, it brings it down. I also think that it's very germane that the code doesn't have a density limitation in it. I think the Board of Trustees, in adopting this code, in light of the comprehensive plan, chose to regulate density more by physical constraints of the property, by regulating height, by regulating FAR, and so I think that that the number should not be as concerning as the development itself, how the development itself presents itself. I think that's a more germane consideration.
I think that's true. However, you are over the FAR, even with the recalculation. So you're at that limit. It sounds as if you are going to, you intend to seek a variance for the 12-foot setback that's required when the building becomes a 4-story building. That setback was also, would also mitigate density concerns. there is, the full complement of resident parking is not being provided. There is no, the code doesn't call for guest parking. I mean, when one starts to think about, and as is true for the other projects uptown, there is no retail or no commercial parking provided. Developers are opting for payment in lieu of parking.
But I think that's appropriate in downtowns. You'll see that all over Long Island, where you're not going to, it's generally up to a municipality to try to provide parking for their commercial districts. And that's what the PILOPs are all about.
It is,
provide funding for that.
Except we lack the land to do that.
So the other thing I want to point out, though, about the comprehensive plan is, while you talk about us using up more percentage than our land area would justify, that's presuming that 100% of the properties in the C2 are going to develop with the residential density. And I think that it's very reasonable to front load some of the density, because you may not get the 500 units that are provided. And I think there were discussions that the 500 units were probably less than what the actual demand or what the actual need is. And certainly once you hit that threshold, you'll have to do a new evaluation. But, I think that it's, I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate to measure our proportionate share of the overall, because I don't think it's realistic to assume that every property in the C2 is going to go this way.
I absolutely agree. But I think the discrepancy between the land, and certainly we're not going to have an even spread of like density throughout the entire C2. The density is site specific. That's part of the reason why there isn't a density codified in the code. But there is quite a discrepancy between the acreage and the percentage of units proposed. And I think anyway, I think I said my piece. I do have some general questions for
Jen, before you go on, collectively between the existing building that's occupied on Texaco and the approved building at the Lobster House.
How many units are we?
Yeah, I think it's about 130 together.
No, I think we're more than, hold on. 3674. I can tell you in just a sec. 3674. And this is a total. Hold on.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I can give you a rough estimate. 51 and Port Jeff Crossing was 46. Is that right? I think so.
I believe it's 204 units, including this proposal.
Okay. Port Jeff Crossing was 45 units. So yeah, that's probably close. So you've got 36, 74, 71, 45. 36 plus 74 plus 51 plus.
Engineer,
206. Is that what you had, Christiana?
Yes. Yeah, we were close to that.
Okay. Just curious.
I think Mr. Chairman, I think that's a very relevant point, that even with this project, not even halfway to what the expected density would be under the comprehensive plan. And this really being so close to the railroad. And also, it's very notable that it is 100% affordable. I think those are two factors that need to be considered in determining how much is too much.
I think I fully support affordable housing. It's something we've been trying to encourage for a long time. I think from a planning perspective, Suffolk County's approach to mixing it so that we don't have buildings that are 100% affordable and then buildings that are 100% luxury rentals. the mix is a more successful and equitable approach. But
Now, Jen, I know your memo came out today, so I believe you forwarded that to somebody at VHB. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Also, okay.
yeah, I think you
So-
should have gotten it, Lou, or wherever you are.
Yeah, we have received it.
Okay. I do have a question for the Conifer team, and that is just because I have no idea how this works. How does the affordable workforce housing designation remain with a building? Say Conifer sells the buildings. Is there some
So
sort of agreement?
Through the tax credit program that provides the financial wherewithal to do this, there's a regulatory agreement that requires the apartments to remain affordable for 50 years.
50 years, okay.
Through the Department of Housing and Community Renewal, New York State.
Okay. So it's 50 years. After 50 years, it can be.
After 50 years, I guess it could go to
Revert to market
unaffordable.
rate.
Yeah, but in my experience, most projects don't.
Mhm.
Projects continue and they seek either new financing in order to refresh the buildings, which usually after 50 years, they need some refreshing if it hasn't happened before then.
Absolutely.
But that's been my experience with projects that are coming toward the end of their affordability period. Usually they're renewed.
Okay. And I think I had brought this up before, and if I got an answer, which I probably did, I don't remember what it was. 2 of the lots are outside of the sewer district, I believe. Lots 3 and 4, maybe. Is there a buy-in that you? I'm bring this up because one a mixed use project on the corner of 1 North Country Road and Main Street. One of the lots was outside of the sewer district, one was within. There was a substantial buy-in to the sewer district.
Connection fee.
Connection fee, thank you. And the applicant, the developer, opted to concentrate the entire building on the lot that was within the district, and because the buy-in fee was connection fee was quite high.
I'll let Dave take this.
So yeah, so the conversations that we've had with Boris at the health department, in the sewer district rather. So the property happens to be, because it's 2 lots, one is fully in the district, one is fully out of the district. So what he would be looking for is, obviously there needs to be an out of district connection for the portion of the building that is not in the district. How is that going to be quantified? So how we left it was, and we still need to obviously pick up the ball and run with it once we get moving, but is that how many units, this is how we discussed it, how many units are on the piece that is out of district and how many units are on the piece that are in district? And that's how it's going to be kind of broken down into that degree. So we would have to get him that information, obviously, but that's the direction it's going, that it would be, you know, partially in district, and then the other one would be out of district connection based on the units.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Because also just sort of as part of this discussion internally here, knowing that there is a substantial, or we've been told there's a substantial connection fee. Gil, is there a mechanism by which a municipality, in order to, because I think especially on smaller projects, this connection fee is going to discourage developers from building, building mixed use projects on a smaller scale. Is there a mechanism by which a municipality can appeal to the sewer district or DPW?
Yeah, there's you can go. any municipality can go to the sewer district and request either a waiver or a lessening of the connection fee.
For an entire district or area?
For like a parcel.
For one parcel, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be legislated. I know in Wyandanch, there were significant areas that were, oh God, I can't remember. There was legislation that either gave them a reduced connection fee or eliminated a connection fee. It was for a certain amount of time. I think it was like 6 years or 10 years, where the municipality was granted a waiver, again, or a lessening, I can't remember, of the connection fee for certain specific parcels, because they were trying to make the the rebuilding of an area more affordable. So yeah, that's something that could be discussed. But again, I think it might take some measure of legislation from the Suffolk County legislature. But the first step would be to talk to the agency.
DPW or Suffolk County Health Department?
No, it's a separate agency. DPW is the working arm. The sewer agency actually makes the decision to allow connection into districts. So it's a combination of legislators, the health department, the planning department, and the Department of Public Works. And if I left anybody out, I'm sorry.
Okay. I mean, internally, we seem to think that might be something worthwhile looking into because a substantial part of the C2 is outside of the district.
Yeah, I would suggest, and if you speaking with Boris Rukovecs, who's the secretary of the agency, and speak to them about, or even the town of Babylon, about Wyandanch Rising. The county did give them significant relief from connection fees.
Okay, terrific.
To the chagrin of a few of the Suffolk County legislature, but you know,
okay,
it was a means of helping.
Can I just ask a question? Which parcel is not in the sewer district?
There are two. I think it's parcel 3 and 4.
Probably the parcels off of
they're in the rear. So they're the ones that right down off of Main Street. So I guess about 100 feet off. I think the depth of the parcels off of Main Street are about 100 feet. So it's the two behind that Perry.
So going down Perry Street
toward Oakland, right?
Okay, if my memory is correct, the Highlands hooked up to the sewer district and the pipe went up Perry Street. So does that help at all? Isn't there a sewer pipe in Perry Street as well as the one on Main Street?
It would depend if it was a gravity fed or if it was a pump. If it was forced, you can do it, but it's very difficult to connect into a force main. So you'd have to see. And again, the Highlands connected as an out of district connection, a connectee. So they weren't part of the original sewer district.
Right.
I don't believe anyway, but.
No, they weren't. And then all of a sudden, it was when Mr. McNamara still had the property.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, because we were across the street for my whole life.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they were digging up Perry Street because they were putting the Highlands on the sewer district.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if the pipe actually follows the topography, which would, if it does, it would put it as a pump up.
Yeah, I would guess it is.
Yeah, I'm just.
That's
my
something.
mind is boggled that parts can be and other parts aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably originally established based on the existing sewers that were in the area when they created the district. And anything outside. I mean, I live on Belterre Road and on Thompson and on East Broadway, they have sewers and I don't. And it's just, it's just the way it is. I don't, so. But again, it would be whatever they'd want to, they're going to do in the back is going to be determined by the sewer agency.
Thank you, Gil.
You're welcome.
Okay. Jen, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
You need a break? All right.
Maybe. I think I've talked a lot.
No, that was fine. Any other board members want to ask some questions? The applicant?
If I,
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead, Gil.
Okay, I'm kind of disappointed. I think the architecture is very nice. Sal Coco, you guys do great work. It's just, I think, to what some of the points that Jen raised, and looking at the plan, I'm disappointed, and there's not more developed with the central courtyard. I recently went down to Charleston and I stayed in a hotel with a central courtyard that was very similar to what you'd see in, say, New Orleans. Those smaller kind of courtyards. They're very private, but balconies can go into it, and that's one thing I would like to see more of personally. Especially I know you can't really do it on Main Street, but on Perry Street or in the back or in the courtyard, it would be really nice to have balconies similar to what we have across the street in, and I don't know the name of the project, but the one they built off of Texaco.
Realty.
Yeah, that one.
The hills.
And even on North Country Road, they have balconies inset into the building. And I think, it just provides, especially given what we've been through over the past 2 years, somebody the ability to go outside, maybe with not going outside, maybe with just going out to a little balcony. And I would, I get it. It's affordable / workforce housing, and it is needed. But I think to just build a straight, and I see a little bit of offset in the design, and I know you're constrained by your funds, but I think we're missing a major, component of what could be a really nice project if in areas where you could put in some balconies. I'm not saying everyone needs a balcony, but there should be something in there, in my opinion. And I would like to see a better plan for that central courtyard. I understand where you're coming from, and you're working for the benefit of your client. But the affordable housing workforce component can only go so far. At some point, there has to be something. We have the Port Jeff Crossing. That was the workforce housing. Yeah, okay. Maybe we let a little things slide that. I would like to see more here, irrespective if it's affordable or not.
Well, from what Conifer has concerns about it as a safety and a management issue in terms of, on the street side, you put a balcony and there's all kinds of stuff that gets cluttered up there. I mean, it's also a safety issue. Certainly, we've done it on other projects.
Yeah, and if you look down,
it's not that it's not something that could be done or has been done, and I've seen it done and we've done it, but it's something that this particular developer has, as one of their, and they have thousands of units across the country. This is what they.
Absolutely, but I would also direct them to take a look across the street, look down in the village, with the two larger, very large buildings that were recently built, and look, there are not courtyards, I apologize, smaller balconies that people, can use.
Yep. No, I did one of them. I know.
Okay, fair enough. You're right.
Also, I would point out, I did look, I did see a conifer project that was done in conjunction, I think, with another entity. It might have been a church in Philadelphia, downtown Philadelphia. And there were lots of balconies. I mean, it was actually a striking and very sort of different, non-traditional building, but
okay, I'm not familiar with that, but possibly, sure.
We can certainly look into it. We'll go back to the client and see what can be done. I hear you, Mr. Anderson, and we'll see if there's anything that can be done. We'll do the best we can.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I do agree with Gil, especially on the interior courtyard. That could be done with a little bit more green in mind. I do have a question about affordable housing. I know that it is a mathematical formula based on the income of the area. And there's a lot of area in Port Jefferson that has a high income level. Can you give me just an idea of how much a 1-bedroom apartment would go for?
Well, let me see. Is Roger Panay? Roger's not on here, are we?
I can see if he's in the waiting room and I can promote him if he is there. Hold on.
I mean, I've seen other projects that were listed as affordable houses that were just out of my budget, but I was just curious, especially since it's uptown.
I'm promoting
it is
Roger.
Interesting that it's based on the affordability in the Nassau and Suffolk statistical area. So we have this in a lot of communities where the local income level is higher or lower than what the averages in Nassau and Suffolk. As far as specific rents go, I'd have to defer to Roger Panay, who I think is being brought in right now. But it'll be, and actually I'll defer to Roger on this too, on the affordability levels, where we see the percentage of AMI, because I think there's a few different affordability levels that we're proposing. Although I don't want to speak out of turn.
Thank you, board. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, board. So this development will have a mix of incomes. It'll be a mixed income development. The range, for example, for a 1-bedroom, at your 30% of your area median income is $731. There are units at 50% of your area median income, which is $1,218. And then you have some of the units at 90% of your area median income, which is up to $2,192 to be exact. But again, it's a range of incomes, and it's based on the area median income that comes out annually on an annual basis. We wanted to make this a inclusive development of many different AMI levels. And just, when you talk about AMI levels, you're talking about people making anywhere a range from $40,000 up to $100,000. So that's we look at it as true workforce housing. So
may I ask a quick question about the breakdown? The 30, 50, 90 are they sort of equally broken down or weighted toward one percentage or another?
It's weighted towards the 60% of your area median income. There are some 30%, but it's only 8 units.
Mm-hmm.
There are 90% units, but I think that there's a total of 4, and then the remainder are 50 and 60% of your area median income.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. I'm glad to see there really are some truly affordable apartments in there. Thank you.
Definitely.
Anyone else on the board have any questions?
I think maybe just real quick, and then I'll shut up. To Barbara's point, there are families in the immediate area right now that are what I would anticipate be the lower end of the economic spectrum. Will there be, that 38% AMI would be targeted towards them?
Due to fair housing laws, we can't target or but what we can do is we can work with the village and with the community to identify where the population is, and we can provide information as soon as it becomes available so that everybody's aware of the opportunity to apply. again, we can't target, anybody because of fair housing, but we do take a community-based approach where we want to market and make everybody aware of the opportunities, especially within the immediate community.
Thank you.
So is it done by lottery then, once you have, or?
Correct. It's
Okay.
it's a lottery.
Anybody else comment from the board? I just have one comment. It pertains to Perry Street. If you recall, in the comprehensive plan,
Oh, right, yeah.
there was a overall scheme, or ultimately to make Perry one way in the opposite direction. Station Avenue becoming one way eastbound, Perry flipping from one way eastbound to one way westbound, with ultimately a traffic signal at Perry and Main, which would enable some of the traffic that is now on North Country Road traveling west and turning left onto Main, which backs up considerably, having two options to get from Oakland to Main and make a left turn. I'm not saying that's the responsibility of this development, but I would think we'd be looking for some type of contribution toward that happening, or some type of list of things that could be done toward implementation of that plan that the applicant could contribute to. So I think we'll be looking at that as we continue the review of this project. Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions? All right, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very informative. Actually, the building does look very nice. The last slide that's left up there, and I think we'll we'll have a bit of a road to come to a compromise, or an agreement, or the specifics that everyone is happy toward and happy for, or is comfortable with, and we will eventually work this through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is 1303 Main Street. Cindy, you want to read the information as we have the representatives let in, if there are any, other than I imagine Amy DeVito is probably in the waiting room for this one.
Cindy, you're muted.
Yeah. Thanks, Lisa. 1303 Main Street Site Plan Amendment, application number 0619-22. Location 1303 Main Street, Suffolk County Tax Map number is Section 17, Block 6, Lot 1. Zoning is the RO Residence Office. Applicant 1303 Main LLC. Property owner 1303 Main LLC. Contact is Woodhull Expediting, Inc., care of Amy DeVito. Description, parking lot renovation. And the action is to review the revised plans.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
How are you guys?
All right.
Terrible lighting. Also, I just realized there's liquor bottles in the background.
They look all full though.
They are. Yeah, we're doing good over here. So good evening, everybody. So we are I guess really legalizing a parking lot renovation. So just to give you some background, my client did desire to renovate the parking lot. In the interim of them kind of planning this, the sewer line that was in the parking lot had to be repaired. So they had to rip up much of the existing parking lot. And as a result of reinstalling, they decided to, at that point, repave, because it just made more sense than them patching in, you know, where the large area for the sewer line repair was going to disrupt. So with that being said, the parking lot is paved currently and striped. It was also slightly reconfigured, but more or less the same layout. We did gain a couple of parking spots, I believe, but generally, really, and the whole, I guess, purpose of this was to beautify the building. So they had purchased the pen and pencil building a couple of years ago and have obtained some permits to do an exterior facade renovation, as well as some interior alterations for a part of the building. And part of their overall plan was to do some site work at the property as far as, like I said, repaving, kind of leveling out the parking lot a little bit. They have repaired some retaining walls that were dilapidated, which is also on our site plan. And clearly you guys could, I'm sure, see when you drive past the property that it looks, you know, much better now than it has in many years, but it was not done in the proper order. So we are trying to, at this point, obtain site plan approval so that we can continue with the legalization of the parking lot. And the ultimate goal here is to obtain the building permit, which has been filed for the interior alterations for the other side of the building. So that's currently pending. So we did submit a revised site plan. I received a memo from Lisa this afternoon with some comments, which we could definitely talk about. So I will, I guess I'll pass it over to Lisa. I don't know if you want to go through, your comments.
Yeah, that would be good.
1 second. Yes. Let me just see here. I think the most useful thing is probably for me to share the actual site plan. So let me just find that. I have a lot of I have a lot of screens open at the moment. Just I should have that one available. Where is it? Ah, it's because it's okay. So this is just a zoomed in. I think everyone here is pretty familiar with this building. This is Main Street 25A. This is Stony Hill Road. The building, as Amy said, has been recently renovated in the interior. They ended up encountering a lot. Initially, it was proposed to be sort of a minor interior renovations to accommodate the financial office that was combining the existing multi-office building into one use, at least in the majority of this building. They encountered a lot of issues in doing it, and so it ended up being a bit of a snowball thing where more stuff happened than was supposed to without a site plan in place, including the facade changes, which weren't part of the original plan, I don't believe. But the biggest issue was the parking, which we knew was definitely going to need to come in for site plan because of drainage concerns. And it's on 25A, it's on Stony Hill Road. It has 2 exits. There's some visibility concerns over here. And in June, for whatever the sequence that caused this to happen, I'm not sure, but in June, they began to pave the lot without any site plan approval, and no drainage was installed at that time. They were told not to do it. There was some discussion at that time about, because the asphalt was on the trucks and pre-mixed, about how to proceed. So a violation was written, they paved the lot, and they agreed to come back in to resolve the issue later. That, however, has backed us into a bit of a corner in that the lot was not designed for the drainage system that was originally proposed. And so when this site plan eventually came in January, the original plan included regrading the lot, which it was clear they weren't going to now regrade. So this plan was submitted in April, and attempts to address the drainage issue without having to reconfigure the lot and take up all the asphalt and do the whole thing over. It includes 2 French drains, one here and one here, and the drainage basins at the lower level of the lot. According to the engineer's calculations, these will be able to contain the lot's 3-inch rainfall event in that lot. In terms of my comments, there are some things I had requested to be on the site plan that are still not, including dimensions of the parking spaces and the drive aisles. Also, these two spots, as I'm sure you have noticed, are very brightly colored Tesla parking spots with chargers. Those should be shown on this plan. In addition, we don't really have, this says existing wood retaining wall here, but it's not an existing wood retaining wall anymore. It's been replaced, and we don't really have any details on what was replaced on that. So in terms of looking for this site plan to be brought up to being just a complete site plan with the information we really require, there's a few items that are missing. I'm sure that you guys are pretty familiar as well with the large sign that's at the Pen and Pencil building. It's not depicted on the site plan. But it does cause a sightline issue. It was a non-compliant and non-conforming sign to begin with. Now that the use has changed, there's really no inherited right to continue using a sign that doesn't meet code. And it also arguably is not necessary anymore because for the most part, this is one use now at max 2 and doesn't require the long list of names that the 7-unit or 8-unit Pen and Pencil building really wanted. So I think that is something that we have an opportunity now to resolve. I know my building inspector was trying to turn out onto 25A and literally called me from the car to tell me that he was having an issue because of that sign. So I know that, and we get a number of calls about it actually to the village. So it would be wonderful to find another way to resolve that. I mean, let me just stop this share here and just look and see what else might have been in my notes that I haven't yet addressed. At the end of this, I made a note in my, when they're completed all these renovations and the work on the site plan, I just wanted to make a note that the CEU for the building, which currently reads 1 personal service, 7 professional offices, should be amended to read that the building is now, that the CEU is from 1986 is superseded and the building is 6,105 square feet of professional non-medical office space. This will make life way easier going forward if this is corrected, as opposed to making whoever has to look at this in the future when somebody wants to change a use in there to know whatever was approved and try to figure out why it doesn't say that on a CO. So I think it should be added when this is at resolution stage, it should be added as a condition of resolution that the final step in the process is getting a new amended CO. And the other thing we are missing at this point is bond estimates. I was given a list of construction costs, but which detailed items for the dry wells and the drainage, but then did not provide any numbers for that. So without those numbers, we can't approve and really evaluate the bond estimates, and that would need to be approved and the bond would need to be submitted before the work could ensue. I think you'll all be happy to know that it's a secret type 2 action. This parking lots are put under the existing parking lots are put under the type 2 action list, and it does not require Suffolk County referral. Do you have any questions of me at this time?
Any questions, Amy, for Lisa?
No, I don't think I'm sorry. I thought you were addressing the board.
Well, for anyone, I take questions from everyone.
All right, I'll ask a question. So I did have a chance to read through the memo. So the architect is, I believe, currently away. So I've already reached out to him to ask him to add the details that Lisa had mentioned onto the plan for resubmission. That shouldn't be an issue. We've also requested that the contractor revise his cost estimate so that we could, have it properly evaluated for the bond amount. So that will be resubmitting as well.
If I can just say, so it's clear that you do not have to bond for us. You don't bond the building improvements, like the interior, all that work, like the interior, the doors that were on that bond estimate. The planning board does not need to bond. That's considered handled under the building permit bond.
Yeah, so site work only.
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as the sign, I have to say that I do disagree with with what you're saying, Lisa, because the sign, the CEO or CEU was for professional offices. We are still professional offices. While there isn't the same number of units, I don't think that there is a break in the continuation of that use. So I'm guessing that I may have to speak to the building department a little bit further about this. But that sign has been there for a very long time in that exact position. I'm not entirely sure the history of how that sign came to be, or if it was part of a prior site plan approval. I'm not entirely sure about that. But from what I understand, that sign has been there since basically the onset of the building being built. So there are going to be two separate professional offices in the building ultimately, both of which are now placed on that existing sign, and they would like to keep it where it is. And in my opinion, they're actually within their right to do so.
Well,
But
I can actually say that technically in the RO, the sign code has a sunset clause. So all of the signs technically have to be made compliant, though we don't tend to go around and enforce that. But it is something to be looked at. And the truth is, as far as I'm aware, that sign does not have a sign permit and never did. Again, like you said, that might have predated even having a specific sign code in the village. I don't know the history, but not standard today, you would require a sign permit for that sign, and where it's positioned, it would not meet the sign code. So you wouldn't be able to put that sign in. So again, yes, I think that, talking to the building department and the building inspector on this might be the best approach to come to a conclusion, but it seemed like an appropriate time to raise it since the whole use is changing and the whole site's basically being kind of reinvented as now.
yeah, well, and again, the use actually isn't changing. It is still professional offices. So that's kind of where it gets a little gray for me, because it actually is a continuation of the use. It's just,
yeah, I mean, in fact, I regard it as a de-intensification of the use, which is a good thing because it's a non-conforming use. So if it was anything else, it would have an issue, wouldn't be able to be that. But wherever we can bring things into greater compliance, especially since it is something that we do, get calls about being problematic for residents and their ability to turn and access 25A.
So Lisa, you're talking about actually while you're stopped, you're trying to make a left turn, so you're looking up the hill, or a right turn actually, to see the oncoming traffic, and that's just in a spot where it restricts your sight distance that you have from your car.
Yeah, that's the complaint that we frequently get.
Yeah, I'll second that. I mean, Stony Hill Road is a cut through that's used a lot, and it is difficult to make that right. You're looking left up the hill and there's that sign, blocking your sight distance. It would be really nice if they could do something to alleviate the blockage.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate and understand that. And as you guys know, my office is right, just a couple of, doors down. I also frequently travel Stony Hill Road from where I live to my office. So I completely understand what you're saying. But the reality is that there is a cost associated with relocating that sign. And, my clients at this point are throwing a ton of money into this building and the site to make it look the way it is. And I'm just not sure that the resources are available at this time to do that. And if it's not enforceable, so to speak, I'm not sure that they would be agreeable to doing something right now, but I will absolutely I'll speak to them and see what their thoughts are for sure.
Yeah, do talk to the building inspector as well, because it's, it was, they were going to write a violation, and I suggested that it would be handled with the site plan.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I don't know what or how the violation could be written. There's
the sign doesn't have a permit, so it can be written.
The sign may not have a permit, but we had a similar situation with one of the buildings over on North Country Road where the sign was actually part of the original site plan, but for whatever reason, permitting was not required at that time. Perhaps there was no permits required for signs. at a certain point in Port Jefferson Village. I don't know. But I have a feeling that this particular sign falls into that category, where it was developed, when the site was developed and the site plan was proposed, the sign was proposed in that particular location, and perhaps a sign permit was not required at that time. I have a feeling that's what happened, but I am going to look into it further and absolutely speak to the owners.
And I don't think the issue of the sign itself has to be resolved in the planning board, because while planning board does sometimes look at signs, they don't generally evaluate the sign code for compliance, and you still require a building permit for the sign. However, it may be noted in the resolution that this issue has to be resolved and a permit is required for the sign.
Understood. And just for the record, no pun intended, but you know, the owners are very forward thinking as far as they are part of this community. They want to, you know, make sure that the building looks great and beautiful. And obviously, if there is a serious safety reason, I am sure they will take that into consideration. So I will absolutely speak to them about that after this meeting.
If there is something they could do, I think, to reduce the block. I mean, you look at the sign is a solid wall from ground all the way up. At least looking on Google Maps right now, I couldn't for life of me tell you, you know, what it looks like in reality. But if they could do something to lessen the blocking, you know, I think that might go a long way. I don't know. You'll have to work that out. But if I could just say one other thing, and then I'll turn it over. Just look at the drainage. The drainage is insufficient according to the plan. I don't have the number in front of me, but if you look at the square footage that's covered by the two drains that they're talking about 9,000 square feet. The lot is more than a half an acre, according to Suffolk County GIS. So if you look at where the ridge of the building is and everything to the northwest, that's about 2/3 of the size of that lot. And that's all draining into that area. And it's only two leaching basins. I think the architect has to look at adding additional leaching. He may be able to get some capacity out of the grading of the parking lot, you know, if once it floods, but at some point you're going to run it. It's just not enough. I think he's got to increase that square footage that he's basing his drainage design on.
There appears to be an existing dry well
over in the corner.
Yeah.
Building. Yeah. But again, if there's existing drainage, he should show that and then explain how that provides capacity. Right now, the only thing the plan really shows is you've got the two leaching basins in the northwest corner.
Right.
And they're going to handle 9,000 square feet of something. So, but if you look at the building, you look at the grade of the site, everything from the ridge of the roof to the northwest drains in that area.
Right. I mean, his calculation is shown, and it's showing that he's capturing a 3-inch rainfall, but I'll bring that to his attention.
Right. But his area, Amy, doesn't meet what is in actuality there. You know, if just for example, if it was a half an acre, 2/3 of that's going to be around 16,000 square feet. He's providing for 9,000 square feet. So somewhere in there's additional capacity either needed, or if it exists, he's got to show it.
I don't think he took roof drainage into account.
Right, and the roof drains all just drain right into the
parking lot.
At least I think that's where part of the discrepancy lies.
Right.
He's just looking at the asphalt in the parking lot.
Right.
So the roof drains could be rerouted as well to other.
I don't think there is any. I don't think he's taken the square footage of the roof into account at all.
Yeah, and there is if you look at again, Google, apologize. You know, that roof drains just go right out onto the sidewalk and then onto the pavement. So, and if it's there, that's great, but he should show that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he definitely has to make some amendments to the plan. So that's something that I'll add to my email to him, so that we can make sure on our resubmission, we capture everything that should be on the plan. I'm just give me 1 second. I just want to see if I have an existing plan from this prior submission. Just hold on 1 second.
Amy, while you do that,
Yes.
will we see a landscaping plan also for this?
there's really not much area to landscape. They have those two little islands in the front.
The only reason I bring it up is because we're discussing this whole sign issue, but I remember a while ago, there was also plantings there that were so high you couldn't see around. So
they did replant.
I agree. I'm just hoping that thought is considered, and since we're not seeing it, that consideration for lower growing plants. If we're gonna make the sign an issue, we need to worry about hedges and flowering.
Yes. I will mention that to them. But yeah, like really the only area to even provide any, there's a small area of grass on each side, and then just like the small little area by the signs, which
exactly. Yeah. And
okay.
So it's not, I just please consider that along with the sign.
And it can be put on the site plan, and I agree that there's not much of significance can be placed there, but low growing, natives or something that would, I believe right now everything's just coming back. That was, so I don't actually know what's right there right now, but
would it be big enough for a rain garden kind of thing to help with the drainage?
That's for,
I don't know.
That's a pretty small area. Yeah.
I'm looking at Gil.
Again, it's always a possibility to consider, but that's something that they're going to have to. All they did on the plan was give you a little calculation, show the leaching pool, and say, okay, we got enough. But yeah, that would be cool if they could. Maybe in that planting area along the back of the sidewalk at the northwest corner,
or the roof leaders. I mean, it looks like there's a tiny little area in the, what would it be, southeast corner, kind of where the bend is in the building. There might be a little bit of an area for some sort of drainage there. I can't.
Okay. And again, I'll relay this to Todd O'Connell, the architect, and see what his thoughts are. And then we'll get a plan resubmitted to you guys for further review. So am I coming back to you guys for a meeting, or is this just a resubmission for, and I guess Lisa, you would answer this question, although I know you are departing very shortly.
You won't see me again is the problem. Not here.
You I won't see again, but would we normally be coming before the board again, or are we just resubmitting for review?
Yeah, so you'd be coming, ideally, in a perfect world, you would sort out the issues that have been brought forward, and correct the errors in the plan, and show the proper drainage, address the things the board are concerned with, and provide bond estimates.
Okay.
I don't think the board needs a full presentation of this. I think that they may have questions. In that sense, you might need to come back to answer their questions, but they're going to need to vote on approving the bond estimates, and then approving a resolution on this to allow the site plan to be done.
Okay, perfect. Do you guys have any other questions?
No, but I think Amy is right about that there weren't always sign permits, because I remember in the 90s that all of a sudden there was information about sign permits, and we were just puzzled by it. But a pre-existing sign didn't require one at that time. So I think you're right, Amy, about that. And I must be very short, because when I look up Main Street, I don't even see that sign. I must be in a low riding car or something where I don't see it at all.
Yeah. It may depend on the car you drive, and and how high or low you're positioned in it.
I sit on a phone book, so I'm above it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Lisa, I'll call you tomorrow to say bye.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Okay, final item on the agenda, Mather Hospital. Lisa, I guess you'd like to admit whoever's out in the waiting room on this. I don't think, Cindy, you need to read anything because we're all familiar with it. We've had couple of public hearings and some public meetings on this. It is the Emergency Department and Surgical Services Expansion Master Plan is what we're talking about. Continuation from prior meetings. And I guess tonight, Jen will be looking at the bond estimate and secret.
Yes. I'm not sure that a lot of, well, I know Andrew, oh, there he is, he's here. It's my impression that Courtney and Anthony are not going to be with us. Is that right, Andrew?
Correct. Courtney and Anthony will not be available tonight. It's going to be myself from VHB. And if you could also add Gail and Robert O'Donoghue and Wayne Chattis to the panelists, that would be helpful.
Okay, will do.
Just waiting for Gail, right?
Yes,
She's on her way in.
I've clicked promote to panelist, but she has to accept, so I'm not sure that she has accepted. But I think she is on her way in now.
Okay. We'll give her a few seconds to get in.
Yeah, I think she's in there. She's on the bottom there.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome, Rob, Wayne, Andrew, and Gail. I guess, Jen, you want to get it started in terms of what we're going to do tonight?
Sure. I think the main objective is to, I hope board members have had a chance to sort of look at the site work breakdown that was provided by Mather. I sent out an email earlier in the week. I noticed and I realized the breakdown was done, or the bulk of it was done in December, I think. Is that right, Rob? And so there may have been things, site plan is sort of reviewed, changed over the past couple of months. I did notice the two retaining walls between the upper and lower parking lots on the eastern side of the site were not included. They're segmental block walls. I asked that those be added, and clarification about the retaining wall on the northern edge of the site where the new drive aisle is. I think in the breakdown it was spec'd as a poured concrete. The plans spec'd it as a block wall. And so mostly looking for clarification there. I don't know. Ray, I think you mentioned you had some questions.
I just had
some items on the.
Yeah, I had two questions as well. One was I see the sidewalk. There's a site sidewalks listed under site work. Site sidewalks is itemized. I just wanted to see confirmation that includes the sidewalk that's on North Country Road as well. This is the question. I think it does, because it looks like it's quite a considerable amount of sidewalk, but I'm not sure.
That's line 27.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, line 27. Yep.
Yeah. So that's the question there. And then on, I guess that's lines on the second page, lines 64 and 65. With the new traffic signals, I see there's a considerable amount of money on North Country Road. I know we had talked about, and I believe we agreed on providing that you would provide GPS preemption of the traffic signal at North Country and Columbia. And I wanted to know if that was included in that lump sum amount there, the 214,000.
Okay, I will have to get clarification for you, but I understand your question.
Okay. All right, and I think Lisa, I'm sorry, Jen, we're trying to get this resolved as soon as possible, right? The bond.
Mhm.
So if you can let Jen know, and then she'll send out a revised estimate for board members to review. We can review that individually, I think, and send comments back to you, Jen.
Yep, that would be fine.
See if we can get that, get the amount nailed down on that.
Yeah, so I know there were some questions earlier about the retaining walls, and yes, the estimate does have to be updated to reflect some of that. Some of that's a result of the various site plan changes that we've made, throughout the review process. So Jen will work with you to get that revised estimate to capture the retaining wall work.
Okay, terrific.
All right. Anybody else have comments? Okay, and Jen, you wanted to talk about Secra?
Want to talk about it?
I don't. It's on the list.
It was on the list. I think I spoke to Courtney earlier today, and I don't know. I mean, the board has had sort of a week to think about the tree clearing, sort of that environmental impact on the site. I think I'm wondering if, as far as reducing the proposed clearing in the northeastern part of the site, the 1.6 acres, the applicant, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, there is no additional room to provide surface parking, at least, to reduce the clearing there. I think
That's correct. Yes.
Right. It's been sort of the major point of objection from the public, and as much as I think everyone is, at some point, I think the board, the village, the applicant, we've got to sort of come to some resolution, move on. Otherwise, it's been a bit of a sticking point, the lack of I guess options.
If I recall, was the area 6 acres?
1.6 acres, is that right, Andrew?
Yes, correct. It's right around it's actually 1.7
okay.
acres, the area of the proposed surface parking lot to the east of the proposed ED expansion.
Right.
So this is the additional clearing area, vegetated area, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. The vegetated area that would be cleared.
Right. And at the meeting last week, we were discussing part 2 of the EAF and the clearing's impact on, give me 1 second. And, I don't know that everyone is comfortable, resolving this tonight, but, at some point we will have to find a way to move on. Give me 2 seconds.
All right, while Jen's rolling away and grabbing stuff. Gil, do you want to weigh in on the drainage or just summarize where we are on that?
Yeah, it just, the last discussions that were had, VHB was going to consider, doing some test bores, test holes in the area of the recharge basin. Once we have and we know what the material is, further consideration of options would move forward, whether it's expanding, going deeper, until we know what the soil is like underneath. That it's pretty much a wait and see.
Correct. And I think that can be incorporated into the board's findings in the
Correct.
part 2 that we do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would go a long way towards answering the comment where, there wasn't sufficient drainage on the site.
Mhm.
And, the commitment that the hospital's made towards resolving that, I think goes a long way.
Right.
Right. I think we anticipate the conditions of approval will be pretty detailed in terms of the drainage, what needs to be done.
Yeah, steps and when they would be completed by, et cetera, based
Right.
on the future phases.
Was there any agreement made about who's maintaining this drainage area?
That will be part of discussions between consultants, Mather and the village during phase 1 while they're installing the drainage structures in the upper part of the site and doing the build out of the ED. So before moving on to the phase 2, which is the interior fit out of the emergency department, all of those agreements, easement agreements, maintenance agreements, and the mitigation plan will be in place as a condition.
Yeah, because my biggest concern about that drainage area is that it was just never maintained. So it has to be some sort of way of making sure that that's actually maintained.
So phase 2 won't commence until that plan is in place and agreed to by all parties. That's my understanding, at least.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
Okay, I think maybe, the board members, we need to come to be prepared, I think on June 9th to have a discussion of the clearing area in detail and come to a resolution or a consensus of our comments. I think we need to get this done. Everybody wants it done and we need to move forward. So I think the board members need to, think about this in detail between now and June 9th so that we're ready to do that on June 9th.
Isn't the 62 days up on June 8th? Am I mistaken? And did Mather, Mather had some pushback at the last meeting about extending those 62 days. And I would like to know whatever happened to that, or are they holding us to the 62 days or are they not?
I think it's desirable to get it done in 62, what is the recourse if it takes a day longer? I don't know that there's any, it doesn't make sense for, I'm speaking for Mather, but it doesn't make sense to do something or protest or come to a counter move because it's one day late. I think, we have the hearing scheduled. Hearing has to be on a Thursday. We've already scheduled it. It just happens to be 63 days. I don't know that it makes sense to commence any action if it doesn't happen before, if it happens a day late as opposed to 62 days. It's not a substantial delay in terms of, a progress schedule or anything like that. It's one day.
Right. I think and I defer to our counselor, but the 62 days is like a limit whereby if beyond that they wanted to file an Article 78 against the village, they could, but like Ray's saying, there isn't really any benefit to going through all that. And I'm sure they don't want to pay their attorneys any more than they have to, but I think that's the basis of the 62 days. If we were nowhere, that'd be different, but I think we're very close.
Now, as it stands right now, we need to have a resolution passed by the 60 days, which is June 8th, unless it's officially waived by council for the applicant. They can bring in Article 78, and Gil, what you were talking about is really legal strategy. That would be within their purview to decide what they want to do and what their costs are. But we have an obligation to have that resolution truly by come hell or high water by June 8th. They can bring an action against us and we would incur substantial costs. So whether it's what they like or what they don't like, we're going to have that ready unless we hear from them saying that they're going to waive it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, guys, Anthony's not available today. I'll speak to him and we should be able to resolve that.
Resolve that meaning what? So I know how to advise my clients here. They should be rushing to get something together, or if they're going to have time to put some additional thought into this.
There is no secret determination done yet. We haven't approved the bond yet. We have one more meeting. The meeting that we have next is the one that's a day after the 62 days.
Mhm.
Um,
And at that point, are we hoping to have a secret determination?
It was my understand, well, and I'm absolutely not questioning you, Rich, but if there's mutual agreement to extend the approval, I thought that is something that could happen, and I think that was discussed.
That could, but as of right now, there is not. And that would be in the hands of the applicant.
Yeah, to both, to the planning board, I think at the last meeting, if I recall correctly, there was the discussion that we would have a discussion. We just didn't want this open-ended and going on forever. So we just haven't been available to connect with Anthony. We'll do that and be back in touch. But I don't see it being a big issue as long as this, can move forward.
In my experience, if there is any waiver of the 62-day time frame, that would certainly not be an open-ended waiver. It would be to a date certain.
Right. Perfect. Thanks, Rich. You have a lot more experience than I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, if we're shooting for to try to wrap things up, so to speak, by the 8th, that board members should forward comments to Jen, I'd say by the end of next week, by May 27th, I think that's the date. Should be.
If I can make a suggestion here, I do think you're going to want that waiver through the July meeting because you have so many issues to resolve. You have not voted on the bond or the secret determination. And then there is the issue of the resolution itself. So just to, in terms of realistically getting that all completed by a date, I'm just to keep it in your minds that you may want to set that as the ideal trajectory, because that would reserve the meeting on the 9th for seeker and the bond and still give you time to put the resolution together.
Thank you, Lisa. So you're suggesting the July meeting?
That when when you request the extension, that you don't request it for any short of that, because it will not, I don't think it's feasible to have that much done by June 9th.
I don't either.
So Wayne, could you pitch that date, which would be July 14th, to your clients and to Anthony?
Yeah, we'll have that discussion internally and with Anthony, and we'll get back to you, Rich.
Okay, thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, I still think the board members should have, to keep this going and keep it. I think we've heard enough testimony at the public hearing and public comments that were written in. I think we've got all the information that we need. So I think we should have our comments in by the end of next week to Jen, so that she can start collating and developing a consensus, and we'll have that ready for the meeting on the, I think I keep saying the 8th, but I guess it's the 9th, right? Of June.
Right.
And bear in mind, the applicant also has revisions to do to the expanded environmental assessment based on what we've, discussed so far. So I think there's work on both sides.
So depending on when that comes in, that date might have to be pushed even further.
Hopefully not.
But hopefully not. But that said, you could always do the date beyond that meeting with the intent of resolving at that meeting and then setting another work session if necessary.
Yeah, and Jennifer, we have those comments from your latest staff report as well as from our meeting last week, and we're working with our team to address them, and we should have them back to you early next week.
Okay. On another note, I think we've last week there was a request by Mather Northwell to remove fill that was deposited on site from prior site plan amendments. And I've run that by the building inspector, and Steve Gallagher, DPW, responded to VHB. I think that they will have all of the documentation and all of the requirements that the village needs. That should not be a problem. So we're awaiting that from you. And Andrew, you know, I think you have the laundry list of things we need.
Yes, yep, and we have that, and I'm coordinating with our group to get you everything you need, Jen.
Great. And I spoke with Tom at Bowler Engineering, who's expediting the building permit for Mather Northwell. So yes, we have I'm awaiting information from him so that we have a path forward to have to get the process of reviewing the construction documents for code compliance underway. And that parallels, you know, the end of the planning board's process, so that can get going. Okay.
Okay. Anything else we need to discuss, Jen, tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Were we going to let them, were we going to make a motion that they can remove the debris, or is that
I think you agreed last week that that was okay.
Okay.
And with the condition that, you know, I speak to the building inspector to see if there were any, and Steve Gallagher, the, you know, DPW superintendent, to see if there were any requirements that they had.
So
they will,
they can go ahead and start removing?
yeah.
Okay.
So they'll provide truck routes, yeah, all the information that I think you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I think there was one additional thing, a final sign off, which Andrew's aware of.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anything from the applicant?
Nothing
Okay.
on our end, Ray. I think we have clear direction.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think, you know, we've been talking about this a long time, yet it's a very large project with a lot of different components and a large site. I mean, it's huge. And, you know, I think we're on the downhill end of it now. And, you know, we appreciate your cooperation, and, you know, I know the board's been doing a lot of work on this too. So thanks to everybody. And board members will get comments to Jen on the major environmental issues and what to do about the clearing. And Gil has already talked about the drainage. And I think we're heading in the right direction and getting near a conclusion. Jen, did you want to say something?
I did have a thought. Yes. Because we don't really have a mechanism to compel the applicant to, for instance, as the public and I think the board discussed, provide a fee or improve an offsite area, you know, in terms of landscape restoration or contributing to a parkland fee. There is no real mechanism for the planning board to compel the applicant to do that, but perhaps in the same way that we're conditioning the mitigation plan for drainage, that maybe a suggestion that the parties that can discuss that, namely personnel at Mather Northwell, Board of Trustees, village attorney, that maybe some sort of agreement that those are the parties maybe that need to speak to one another and propose some sort of clearing mitigation. Because I'm not saying it will work, but I think it's outside of, and I think that's why we're sort of stuck here, because we can't really do anything.
You talk
At
about.
at the very least, a suggestion from the planning board that the parties that are capable of discussing a potential agreement, that they do that.
Would it be in the form of a letter or recommendation to the Board of Trustees?
Yep, perhaps, or as part of the resolution that, as a way of responding to public outcry and the concerns of the planning board, because that really has been the sticking point all along. And I think we've exhausted what we're capable of doing at this point.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely. Yeah.
So it's like a committee to come to a resolution. So would that take the place of planning board comments, or?
No, not at all. And I think the planning board absolutely should supply the reasoning behind that suggestion.
And again, I think a good approach is that Mather is in the bid district, which is taxed based, and because they are tax exempt, they don't contribute. And there's a lot of things that they impact the village on, such as infrastructure and other items. So that might be a good way to approach it. I know there was a lot of pushback on the park fee, but they are in the bid district.
Okay.
All right. So basically, planning board should get you, Jen, get you the thoughts on that, right?
That would be very, very helpful.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, let's do that. All right.
And that would be good. Another good reason to get this agreement extended out to July 14th, which is Bastille Day.
Ah, how appropriate.
We'll have some baguettes and wine.
Ah.
How about some eclairs? I'd rather some chocolate.
How good for that.
Wasn't there wine on the last planning board segment in the back? Okay. All right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Mather representatives. Thank you, planning board, and thank you, Lisa, for a great job. We're going to miss
you already.
Yes, we do.
We're going to miss you.
I don't know who's going to set up the Zoom and the YouTube, but it's not going to be me. You did a great job with that. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Lisa. Great job.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you, Lisa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Good luck,
Thanks,
Lisa.
Andrew.
Bye.
Since we've exhausted the agenda, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll set.
Oh, no, Gil got it. Gil got
I'll
it.
second.
Tie goes to, or usually you should go to Lisa, but it went to Gil this time. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. We'll
Thank
see
you all.
folks.
It's been an honor.
See you all in a few weeks.